Can't build no dream. But yes, you can't build no dream on a fuss and fight. I'm gonna care who I do it. Cause Jah know say what? That no right. Can't right. And so as you if you're just joining, well we just a start. It is the Jamaica mix, and this evening there's an issue, a topic I don't wanna touch on. Something been burning in the field for a long time. You know, badmanism and the culture of badmanism, the glorification of that culture in Jamaica. And so we want to talk about that. We want to talk about the role, possible role that the media may have played, wittingly or unwittingly, as far as that is concerned. And that today we are in the state we are right now. Again, make it clear, uh, by every standard, me is an old man, right? And so me grew up in a Jamaica at a time when just after independence, and so you kind of want to make sure, say boy, we're trying to reach somewhere, you know, as a country, we have had our fair share, and so this is an issue that I've watched its development. That today we see where a bad man run things, but a long time it have gone, and so you kind of make you wonder um, where the examples, the kind of examples that we have had to follow. It begs the question to of the role. I grew up in a Jamaica at a time when the general thinking is that the media, as the sort of what them call it, the third estate, whatever, was an integral part of how you inform your society. And so over the years, I may talk about back in the 1960s, we had essentially one radio station that was RJR, right? Um, and I just want to welcome my friends on Facebook. I see my bona fide brethren Staffordshire. And again, welcome. So back in the late 60s, late 50s rather, into the early 1960s, it was just RJR was the primary media house. And over time, I think by the second half of the 1960s, JBC came into the fray. Today, Jamaica have more radio stations than quite a number of other even more developed countries. Um, we have the benefit of satellite and internet, and so there is now a proliferation of media within the Jamaican society. So we're not short anymore of information or access to information. But in the course of the same period, what we have seen is an overtaking, and I call it that, an overtaking of the society, the Jamaican society, by um, some different forces. These forces came through at a time where and I guess they piggybacked on the development as the country itself went through its developmental throes. They piggyback. For example, we used to ship ganja come America um, by plane, and by plane, may I talk about there was a time when Air Jamaica was referred to as a ganja plane. You know, so as we as the Air Jamaica operations opened up in the first half of the 1960s, what it did in a more relaxed environment, a lot of Jamaicans found out that them could have put some weed in a suitcase and check it on as luggage, as part of them luggage, and literally walk through the airport with weed, right? And so over time, as that took root, what you had was a cluster of Jamaicans who were making money out of the trafficking of ganja using our national airline. And then it got bigger. People went further. Instead of a suitcase, now you put on a whole container of weed. If you could have get that on the plane, you put it in the luggage compartment and thing. But over that period of time, a truckload of people made a lot of money off these illegal activities, and you know, to the point that a lot of these people are still active today, may not be actively involved in that kind of trafficking, but they are still a part of the social fabric of the Jamaican society, and a lot of them have managed to burnish their images, and today them are a big part of the influencers. Now, on this side of the world, Jamaicans are noted for our involvement in terms of the hype and the bluster. Jamaica people full of style and fashion and bluster and oomph, if you want to call it, right? Jamaica people have that. We have that in a spades, and the fact that that is built around the music and the Jamaican dancehall culture make it even more commonplace. And so, as the Jamaican society evolved, one of the things that became evident was that a large proportion of the Jamaican society was being left behind. We have an education system that never really did much to provide broad-based education to the wider Jamaican society. Here you have the schools, but inadequate investments and so on. And so this is where we depend on our political masters to provide these guardrails, right? A man enter into politics, and back in the 50s and the early 60s, politicians, there were more a sense of politicians getting into politics because they wanted to be part of the process of developing and providing the architecture for the development of the Jamaican society. The big question you have to ask yourself today, 63 years later, is that thinking the same? We're now in a situation where we are part of a global environment where influence peddling is a big issue, major problem, where the transshipment of the tools, the implements of narco trafficking and drug smuggling and gun running, big problems on a global scale, and no country is exempt from the tentacles of that, right? We have people who, again, within the fabric of the Jamaican society, who have made a lot of money, right? Solid money. And people took their chances, and there is these anecdotal positions about man who everybody knows a certain man, a weed man. The man they make their money off of sell weed, and then by the late 1970s, early 1980s, we moved away from weed to coke. We also recognize too that in the course of that period, whereas the Colombians, were shipping cocaine directly from Colombia into the United States, Jamaica became a transshipment port, and people with at various levels of the Jamaican society who had the connections became part of that trade, and so a lot of people today the drug running is still a major problem in Jamaica, and a lot of Jamaicans who have them finger upon the pulse, them ears to the ground, know some of these people who are involved, and these people have infiltrated not only the economic framework of the society but the political framework, right? And why am I saying all of this? Because at the heart of our governance has to be this factor of trust, right? A trust that the people who put themselves up for these offices are doing so with the best interest of the broad population of Jamaica. That they are doing that with those people. Now, I make a big distinction between a man who go into politics. I'm not saying that people must go into politics and you broke and you go into politics to do whatever your time, and when you finish you can't live off of the pension. No, I'm not into that. But I have a fundamental belief that we can't have a political system where people are politicians for life, where them win a seat in a national election and them in a parliament for 30, 40, 50 years, right? Bless up Gregory. So I believe that there ought to be term limits, and against this background, I remember in 2017 when the current Jamaican administration came into power. This was one of the tentacles of their platform that they campaigned on, establishing term limits for politicians and so on. It was the same administration that, out of the verbalized concern for some of the pointers that I just raised, as far as the 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 the, the business of influence peddling, right? The the necessity by those who want to peddle influence to interfere with the way how the country practices its politics and will pay money to buy that influence, right? And unfortunately, when you have a situation where your politician them broke, licky, they are susceptible to this guy. I mean, everybody want, as I think one of them, I think those General Trees who had a song where him say, you know, him a talk about the youth who want him want be a trucker, and him start with a hand cart, but you can't be a trucker with a hand cart. So him a look down the road at any opportunity him get where him can earn a money for buy a trailer, and that him over do. And it's a sentiment, as as kind of unsanitized as it sounds, that can be basically overlaid on the average person. Everybody want an opportunity to move ahead. And so within that framework, we now have to be careful. And so I don't want to lose my train of thought. So we come back to the administration. The JLP won the election in 2017, and in the course of time, they established the Integrity Commission. And I'm watching how this discussion has gone on in Jamaica with respect to the Integrity Commission and the ventilation of the issues. In the first place, I think the media, in the first instance, has done very little in terms of, helping to clarify, to get Jamaicans to have a better understanding, a better appreciation for the role that the Integrity Commission has. Now, what is even more strange is that the same administration that established the Integrity Commission are now caught in the crosshairs of the very same institution that has been established. And if one is to believe them, this institution that was established to provide a maintenance of the guardrails that governs the operation of our political process, the democratic process in Jamaica, one would get the impression that these people are out there to get. In other words, that what they're doing is taking personal attacks. The people are, in my opinion, doing the job that they were, that the organization was established to do. And so, what we have is a situation where, so the Prime Minister becomes the target, if you will. Well, he's the targeted figure in the context of the main discussions to date. But he's not the only person. It's just that his report is the one that is being dealt with at this time. And it has created this huge furore. Now, don't misunderstand me. Prime Minister is a Jamaican, and he have every right to seek legal counsel. He have every right as well to request from the court, as ludicrous as the request may seem, that they look at the activities of the commission. Now, the question it begs is that, but you guys set up this thing in 2017. This commission came into effect on October, I think it's the 27th of October of 2017, under the hand of the current individual who is Prime Minister of the country today. And so they are doing the job that the commission was established to do. We may argue about the approaches, and that makes it, reasonable to, if you're not happy, go to the courts. But implicit in the discussions that have generated over time, over the period, is one that is suggesting that we want to remove the power of investigation from the Integrity Commission. And so it takes me back to the structure that I, as a man in my 60s now, have watched its development in the social, economic, and political framework of Jamaica. Right? We now operate as on the, against the background of, if I have the power, it means that I have the right. If I have at a certain stature or level in the society, nobody shouldn't ask me no question. My view is, if you are prepared to offer yourself as a public servant of a country, and there are rules that require you to provide a certain level of reporting as a public servant, you need to provide timely responses, not just respond, but timely responses when you are requested to do that. And if you feel that you shouldn't answer them kind of question there, then maybe on a politics you're supposed to do. You don't belong in the public service. Go and run your own private affairs where nobody can ask you the question, right? Unless you have shareholders that you are answerable to those shareholders. But as long as you are subject to, then it is a requirement. The problem that I have is that this kind of development is aided and abetted by a media apparatus that is basically falling down. There is I saw where the president of the Press Association a couple of weeks ago was expressing deep concerns about the claims about the two major political parties in Jamaica, where he was saying that the two entities are against journalists in the country, right? And that their attitude to the press is huge, not just cause for concern, but the behavior have deep implications for the profession and those who work as media professionals. Now, the sense that you get when you're listening to that argument is that media practitioners are under threat. That people are threatening the media practitioners, and their lives are in danger. If you don't dig deep enough, you would want to buy that argument. The truth be told is that the last time somebody who is a member of the media suffered, or the media fraternity experienced a death from a killing of a media personality was Shari Genius, and that was way back in 2007, where she and her father, if I remember, Shari Genius worked as a media practitioner, and she and her father were killed in Trelawney, Clarkstone. Her father was a police sergeant at the Clarkstone police station in Trelawney, and she was a victim of a shooting. Both her father and herself were shot and killed in the motor car in a Stuart Castle in Trelawney while they were on the way home. Now, the investigations never necessarily suggested that she was killed because of her journalistic work, but that is the last time that a media practitioner, there was a case with this guy, Job Nelson, and it was erroneously reported by the same media that he was shot and killed in Kingston, and that would have been earlier on this year when on investigation it looked like he had an accident. His car crashed and he had a piece of metal pierced his chest thing, and so the autopsy showed that he wasn't victim of the shooting. So I'm giving you all of this background because we don't have a case where the lives of journalists are openly threatened. There was a case recently where a shooting took place about nationwide news, where they must fire some gunshot in the parking lot. But it is inconclusive that this was any attack on the station per se. So we want to be careful. But at the same time, when you talk to people in the media, people are afraid. People don't want to call no name. People don't want to provide any deep-rooted investigation against anybody because of the potential for recrimination. And you can't blame the media practitioners, Keep in mind that Jamaica is a country where for the last 35 years we have been murdering over 1,300 Jamaicans every year for the better part of the last 35 years. And again, the country not at war. Well, we're at war with ourselves. So a country with that kind of murder rate, where you're ranking in the top 5 most murderous countries in the world, it does cause concerns. And so people are looking around. Today there's a whole heap of money involved in politics and corruption, and there is a necessity to turn on the floodlight from this corruption. We have people who, and I can remember in my days when I lived back a yard, we have people as politicians, before them going to politics, them a walk on the road with them shoes, a walk on them shoe side. Them can't find enough money to buy a tin and nugget polish, to polish the shoes, the way how the shoe side walk down. And within 6 months to a year, them man they go into politics. Them man they have a house in Florida. Them a drive the biggest car and thing. And the salary of these members of parliament in those days could have barely buy a under 50. Now, something definitely wrong if a politician them not earn enough money that him can live off of. I mean, I subscribe to that. We believe that if a man wants serve him country, pay him properly. Some of them have a problem with the big money pay raise where them get the other day. I just feel that the other civil servants should have get a reasonable level of increase too, because of them run the various, government departments that generate the revenues that are going to pay the politician them as well. So, but at the same time, these people, we see them within the framework of the political structure and them lifestyle big. And so all of a sudden, everybody wants to be a politician, right? Everybody want to be a Don. Everybody want to be in a position where them have this kind of levels of influence. And so you look back and you say, but this is not new. Because if you do a deep dive, it'll go a long time. On the other side, them doing a work thing because them want to be a shatter. And once them a shatter, them have a big matic on them side and them a drive the fanciest car and extortion money and all kind of thing. And the lifestyle big. And that lifestyle feed in the culture. It becomes the lyrics for the songwriters. The lifestyle also becomes the feeder for other aspects and elements of the culture. And so outside of Jamaica, the people who are looking on is seeing all of this, the bling and the ray, and then the behavior changes, right? Antisocial behavior becomes a thing. Just like how the youth them, you have some youth that ride some bike at Jamaica and call it yang yang. And whereas in the early days a motorcycle, you barely is like a bicycle, you hear it. Today yang yang you hear it from 20 miles away. And nothing. I think recently the government makes some legal changes with the legislation that say the noise law thing, and them have to bring down the decibel level at the bike, the engine noise. But a part of the culture, right? Part of the culture. And so this anti-social behavior, it has now permeated almost every aspect of the Jamaican society. So a politician don't want, you can't call them out because they will load you up. For example, me say a case where Warmington made a statement the other day because people are discussing the same integrity commission thing. Warmington, who the PM did kick him out of the cabinet. That was public knowledge. We see him jump up the other day. When was it? Last weekend. And at a rally in a Clarkstone again, Clarkstone Trelawney, where I say that the media are trying to destroy the Jamaica Labour Party. So again, which makes the argument on the part of the press association that politicians are badmouth the press, right? The press, the politician, them want you to only speak nicely about them. And so there are some media houses who to a large extent play along with these requirements, We have one radio station in Jamaica where them really need to just put a JLP sign at the gate, because the man there, you dare not say nothing against the JLP. But the same thing is true with the PNP too, because them feel the same way, right? The PNP the other day elevated Vibes Cartel lawyer to for run a seat in a Portland. Now, the party free to make those decisions, but what is it? What the kind of messaging you're sending when here is a man who will run as a candidate who has behind his name 2 criminal convictions for drug trafficking? So it kind of begs the question, how we treat with that. Again, all of these things happen because what we are experiencing in Jamaica is what I call a weakened media environment, where it's either people want to be on the good side of, no matter how questionable the character is, you either you sit down by your hand and your mouth, you don't say nothing. And that feed into the narrative that say to the general population that this is alright, this is fine, right? Antisocial behavior, that is fine. The same narrative that at the government side that is challenging the very authority of this oversight body that the same administration has created. And is literally, if you take a survey in Jamaica, I would suggest that more than 50% of Jamaicans are of the view that the Integrity Commission don't have no right to exist, right? And so what we are seeing then is this creep of antisocial behavior into the fabric of the Jamaican society, right? We see where, journalists are keep quiet, and then on the other level, there are some who basically them now go shake the tree because them politicians here have whole heap of links, or them have enough connections where, as a media man, if I keep the reporting positive, maybe something can drop off a head and drop on a shoulder. My view is that we can't run a country like that. We can't, right? I am yearning for the days when we can go back to dealing with issues based on the whole concept of right and wrong. I remember years ago PJ Patterson had this values and attitudes campaign that he was on, that was asking Jamaicans to look to operate from a positive value system framework, right? Foster a positive attitude that we can pass on to the next generation of Jamaicans. Unfortunately, make you wonder, is that really possible? Are our political leaders of the ilk, the metal that you can really draw on as examples? Or let's put it another way, what kind of example some of our political masters are representing? There was a time when we used to associate certain criminal gangs with either of the 2 major political parties. To a large extent, that has dissipated somewhat. That is not to say it don't exist still. Jamaicans are Jamaicans, and Jamaicans on a political level will support one or the other. Granted, as one commentator pointed out, Jamaica kind of not really in a serious political support thing these days, and that is borne out by the fact that with almost 2 million people on the voters list, is only about 500,000 people who participate in any kind of elections at any given time. The days when the politics was ideologically driven, those days are gone, and so Jamaicans don't really, unless you're a diehard, you don't really have nothing to do with politics. But the truth be told is that that's the wrong direction, because the political structure is how we manage the use of scarce resources and the allocation of scarce resources. And so Jamaicans really ought to be more interested, especially now, in how these resources are being handled through the political process. But we have a case where a former minister of government there's a case before the court where he is responsible for some $500 million of government revenue, that misappropriation, and that case has been lingering and lingering and lingering now for the better part of more than 5 years. We don't know where to go, but the media is quiet on this thing, and so that silence, you sort of make you wonder if there's complicity. There is another case with a Petrojam issue where there is an investigation that showed that a certain volume of petroleum products is unaccounted for, whether it's leakages or whatever, but is billions of dollars. And there was a mention, and then it just disappeared, right? We also remember quite a number of executives at Petrojam had to step away from the work because of, again, misappropriation of funds or illegal use of funds at the agency. But we don't hear nothing more about it, right? And so the question that it begs is the role that the media, because that's what the media is. The media's job in any country is to provide information to Jamaica, to Jamaicans. But the bias becomes a problem, right? While there's the perception is that some media houses are aligned to some political parties, and there is empirical evidence. There's some sort of evidence to support that, but that evidence basically comes from the fact that Jamaicans politically, we're gonna have preference for one party or the other. I am not going to suggest that the bias do exist, but I won't agree though that it is a widespread situation. I think a lot of people have just decided to focus their attention on issues or subject issues that are less problematic, right? The if we don't get into discussions that are contentious, right, then everything, right? The the overall position for me, just looking on, is that the Jamaican media has operated in a way that maintains a certain level of professionalism, true, but there is, without, it's difficult to say that there isn't some favorites. As we say, there's one media house that could have put a JLP sign over them gate because of how they have been partial. What I think though is the divide that is creeping back into the Jamaican society is not helped by the way how media conducts itself. We have this hard preferences, either PNP or JLP, or either Brogard or Marky G. And me personally believe that media bigger than that. me believe that when these people, there are missteps, media must call them out, right? And don't whisper it in a one corner, and then when an opportunity come for have a fulsome discussion, you step away from the thing, right? Jamaica has largely been celebrated for this relative degree of high level of press freedom, right? Especially when you compare Jamaica with a lot of countries, not only in the Caribbean but elsewhere. But again, there is a whole heap of room for improvement. I believe that as a country, our press need to hold our politicians to account, right? The reason why we can have, leaders in the political class challenge the existence or the authority of institutions designed as part of the guardrail of the governance system in Jamaica is because the media give them a pass, right? And I believe that we need to demand more, right? The media makes the argument about pressure come from the politician. I mean, I say it no exists. We know that, right? We know that there is pressure because when a man like a Warmington can make that kind of statement, and how many of the other media houses challenged him on it. He made his argument is that the press not have nothing good, and he might speak specifically to RJR and the Gleaner, right? Because those were his comments, right? Him say, them media house then have nothing good to say about the Prime Minister, and that them are try to wipe out Brogard like what them did to Siaga and Bruce Golding, right? My view is that the media needed to have attacked that some more, because politicians will make those comments and continue making those comments as long as them feel that they can say it and get away with it, that nobody is challenging them, right? Warmington is, in my opinion, was out of order. I genuinely believe that that was way out of line, the comment that was made. But again, because nobody took him on, he's always going to get away with it, and his view was that he's coming back into the politics to help Brogard. He might run in his seat again, and he might have a right to do that. But the ease with which you can make those comments on a political platform is cause for concern. And the fact, not only the ease, but the fact that the media did nothing to take him to task. Market that, whether that would make a difference, because this is a man when I have a problem to tell the media people about them what's it not and what's it not. But again, even then, when that happens, you need to amplify it, right? Because that's how we get accountability. The problem is that too many in our political class don't believe that they're answerable to the members of the public. The fact that the press association allowed these comments, the different media houses have, I think the Gleaner did a little reporting on it, and the Observer, but beyond that, nothing, right? We know in an environment where we have this internet media, people like my channel here, and I think more of us need to be tackling these issues, provide some alternate sources, alternate approaches rather, to addressing these issues, because none of them manner no bigger than the Jamaica where all of it come from. Country is the most important thing. And so, you know, may I challenge the people out there, those of you who pay attention to this video, to this stream, to, you know, let's get a conversation going. Let's share discussions like these, right? So we can have a broader pool of people who are participating, right? Let us put the word out there, because the way to turn the thing around is by making these people who find themselves with political power recognize that it's not the same game anymore, that you are under scrutiny, and that we are going to load you up when you provide any misstep, right? And I take anything away from. If a man decides that you want to take an issue, go to court, that's fine. But implicit in that decision to do that is one that, because you feel that you're above being asked any kind of questions. And my view is, if you're a public servant and you feel that nobody should ask you any questions about your activities, that you, however your income is derived, the fact that your lifestyle is inconsistent with what we know your earnings is, that nobody shouldn't ask you that kind of question. That is something that the media needed to have dealt with in a more fulsome way, right? And so if Mr. Gentleman or Miss Lady, you're in the public service and you feel that you shouldn't answer those questions, it's time to leave. Straight up, right? It's time to leave. Don't tell me about questioning the legality of the entity to ask those questions. The fact is, that's what they're there for. You may, even if you don't like all them are there, and if them not do the thing right, right? Not doing it right and doing something that is outside of their remit are two different things. We may not like the way how they ask the questions, but they have a right to ask a question. It's a different thing than saying you don't have no right to be asking me those questions, right? And so we're gonna take it to court to ask the court to remove that right. Might as well say to the court, wind them up, because a country like Jamaica need institutions like the Integrity Commission, whether we like it or not. And the reason why is because we have come a far way, right, in terms of the issue of corruption. Corruption is the biggest problem in Jamaica. Biggest, right? You can't tell me that you are working in an environment as a government officer where you have control over huge swaths of government resources, and you have a business out there that generates the lion's share of its revenues from doing business with the government. Who is the arbitrator between yourself and yourself? Right? Those are the reasons why that kind of organization exists. Because you cannot, you should not, and if you do, it is illegal for you to be an officer of the government, but you're also the head of a private company doing business with the government, where your government department awards contracts to this company who provide oversight of those contracts. That's the reason why we have the Integrity Commission, right? You can't tell me, say, you have a company that you are sitting down upon, you're sitting down upon a tranche of over $500 million, right? where any other company in a Jamaica who's doing business in a Jamaica have to declare a tax return on those revenues, because those revenues are subject to taxation from the government. And so when you present a tax return that say you don't have no revenue, then how you explain these deposit transaction on your bank account? Your bank account is your cash book in your business, right? That's your cash book. Every activity that is an income generating activity, people now pay you X amount of million of dollars by thing, right? The people are not paying you that kind of money, um, and you put it under your bed. If it come through your bank account, you need to declare it. How write off expenses against it, but you can't have hundreds of millions of dollars in your bank account, and then when you at the end of the tax year, you don't pay no taxes. Your tax return zero. All that for go so. And then you feel that the entity designed to look at your affairs as a servant of the people of Jamaica, doing business from the outside and with the government, and you're not paying no taxes for it. And the media is silent. Because that's the issue, people are making this thing with the integrity commission, as if to say is a frivolous or is a willful persecution. It's not no friggin' willful persecution. That's a job them supposed to do, right? And so what we are waiting for now is the rest of people, because I 8 people out there that is under the same kind of microscope. So we're curious about the next. I wonder if the PM is one. I'm not suggesting that he is, but by virtue of the controversy that has come out over the period, it sort of make you wonder if that is the case. Who else? Who else is there, right? And so, from that perspective, again, the media, as best as operations like my yard media thing is, we want to keep this conversation going. We want to have these discussions. It has nothing to do with the Prime Minister as an individual. It's not about him or people feeling that he might thief anything. It is about the regulations that are established that says that by virtue of the fact that you have offered yourself up as a servant of the people, you have to report your affairs. If you don't want to do that, Mr. PM, I don't know, just step aside. Make somebody else take over the thing and you go and run your business and go make as much money as you can. That's my view. Tell me what you think. Am I right or am I right? Eh? I don't read it as anybody I try to tear down anybody. Jamaica people don't even interested in politics anymore. Eh? And you know that because when you look, a 2-man and a dog are voting in an election nowadays. But whomever makes themselves available, right? Whomever makes themselves available to represent themselves as the head of any political leadership is subject to that kind of investigation. If you don't want that to happen, walk away from the politics. Walk away. Right? Don't give people the impression that people are there, them out forget me, And then we have a lot of people, because the levels of public education in Jamaica is not all that great. Right? And so people are there thinking that you have some fool out there will really take it and believe that the people them are deliberately come after the PM. The PM have live a lifestyle that $10-20 million a year can't support it, and the people them have a right to ask those questions, because that's the purpose of their existence. That was the reason why they were there. And everybody else who is in a similar situation must answer those questions. It's not enough to answer the question. They might ask the question today, and at 2 years down the road you provide the answer. That can't work neither. Right? We have to be a country of rules, a country of laws. And the people, as a lawmaker, you are bound, like everybody else, to obey those laws. Straight up. Tell me what you think. Eh? It's not about the politics. It's about whether the thing is right or is wrong. I come from a Jamaica at a time. I grew up in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s in Jamaica, where the rule of law is paramount. We may not have done the best in terms of how we adjudicated some of these things, but we have a responsibility to try to do better. Right? So Mr. PM, nobody now after you. Me personally, me I love you make a piece pot load of money, cause when I like have a art show I invite you to come buy some art from me too, with some of them money where I make. So I don't have no problem with that. But you can't be wrong and strong at the same time. That's my view. I know this matter is before the court. I am not even curious as to what the ruling is, because common sense tells me which direction this case will go. But that's for a different time. Right? Let me know what you think. You know, it is we'll take an early cut this evening here because a big hurricane on the way, and I just wanted to get this material up and out there so that we can you know, especially all things being equal, we keep the conversation going. But let me hear your thoughts, you know. And if you, I'm gonna drop this on YouTube in a little bit. So if you you know, check out my YouTube channel, Yard Media, as well, and check out our website. If you're on the website, you know, dive in, check out our shop, support the programs that we have, support our streams, and you know, every little bit help. And more importantly, share. If you have not done so yet, subscribe to the site as well, you know, so we can keep you abreast of our programs as we go along the way. Let me hear from you. What do you think about what me think? More time, you know, as we fight one another for the power and the glory, as the big man said, you know, Jah kingdom goes to waste. More time.